Hello this Wednesday morning to my Math 8 students. I hope that you're having a good week and we're going to get started on our next lesson. Now what we're doing at the end of the year is I combine the most important lessons from chapter 12 and chapter 13 into one chapter. So we've done 3 lessons in chapter 12 and now we're going to do a few lessons in chapter 13. So we're going to kind of switch gears away from graphs and data organization to working again with polynomials. Now we might come back to chapter 12 at the end, but we'll just kind of play it by ear and see how it goes. It's all kind of crazy now, isn't it? So, but there is a plan and you will be prepared for Algebra 1 next year. And by the way, I hope you will all be in my class because Math 8 has been great this year. I miss you all. And I hope that I get to see you again next year. So let's say a prayer. Father in heaven, I just thank you so much that you're faithful. I pray for all of my students that they would focus and learn well this lesson and that you strengthen me and help me to be the very best teacher I can be right now. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I'm going to sit down and we're going to get started. Okay, I will put the overhead on. So chapter 13, like I just said, is about polynomials. Okay? So a polynomial is an expression of terms, okay, that are many. So poly means many. So you have many terms that are together, they're added or they're subtracted, something like that. Now, there are specific types of polynomials, so I wrote down some things here if you want to pause the video and copy those down, and then we'll talk about them. Okay? So, now I hope you're back. A monomial, as you can guess from the first syllable, means one term. So a monomial is a polynomial with only one term. Some examples of that would be like negative 2x or 4 or y squared, something like that. There's only one term. A binomial, as I'm sure you can guess, is 2 terms. So that's an expression that has 2 terms. So like 3x minus 2 or negative a cubed plus a squared. Do you see here I have 2? And I have 2 there, and they are attached, the terms are attached with a plus or a minus. Okay, now a trinomial, as you can guess, is 3 terms. So we have a polynomial that has exactly 3 terms to be called a trinomial. So that might be negative 2a squared plus 3a plus 1, or 3 plus 5r minus 7r squared. So you can see in both of these examples, I've got exactly 3 terms. Okay, the next thing that we're concerned about, and actually this will be the main focus of the whole lesson, is something called standard form. So you are welcome again to pause the video to copy this down, or not. It's up to you. I wanted to write it all down. I'm going to read it now. A polynomial is in standard form if the exponents of the variables decrease from left to right. So that means that the biggest exponent is first, and it goes on down the line. So let's look at some examples that will help you. Standard form. These are examples of standard form. So 3x cubed plus 2x squared plus 4. So you can see here in this trinomial we've got 3 and then 2 and then no exponents. So that would be in the proper order. Or how about something like this? Negative 2m to the 6th plus 5m to the 3rd plus m. It doesn't matter if it's negative. That is not what determines whether something is in standard form. It's all about the exponent. So here we have 6, then 3, and when we don't have 1, there's actually an invisible 1 there because I have exactly 1 m. Okay, so 6, 3, and 1, those go in descending order from largest to smallest. All right, now, as opposed to that, something not in standard form would look like this, just so you get a picture. 3 plus 5y. The 3 should be last. I have a y in the 5y, and that would normally go first. Okay, how about something like this? 7t to the 4th minus t to the 7th minus 2t squared plus 3t. Okay, let's look at the order. 4, 7, 2, 1. Okay, this term should actually be first because the 7 is the largest. Now here I have a 7 out here, but that's the coefficient, it's not the exponent. Okay, so the exponent is the key word here in standard form. Now this is very important. I also teach Algebra 1, and I can't tell you how many times we have to rewrite expressions into standard form so then we can do things to them. So the first step very often is just to move things around so it's in the right order. And it just doesn't work if it's out of order. So that's why in pre-algebra, we're learning what this is now, so it becomes much easier for you in Algebra 1 and on into Algebra 2, and you'll have more success. All right, so let's do some examples. Number 1, write the polynomial in standard form and classify it. Okay, so here's A, x minus 9 plus 5x squared. So I am going to rewrite it in standard form. My biggest exponent is a 2 here, so I'm going to start with that. And then I have a 1, and then nothing. So there we go. And this has no sign in front of it, so that means it's positive. And this would be a trinomial. I have 3 terms. Okay, let's look at another one. That's not too bad, is it? How about 2x minus 3x cubed? Let's write that in standard form. Well, I would have to put my negative 3x cubed first. Now be careful, I do have a minus there, and I have to take it with it. This goes with the 3x cubed. So on the outside here, I have to have a negative, okay? And this is a binomial because it has 2 terms. All right, so I want you to try one on your own. These are not very hard. So I'll give you kind of a hard one. How about this? T squared minus t to the 5th plus 2t to the 3rd plus 7. Okay, go ahead and rewrite in standard form. That's the only directions I'm going to give for this one. You can go ahead and pause that and come back in just a moment. All right, so the answer to this one would be negative t to the 5th plus 2t cubed plus t squared plus 7. And I didn't have you do the other directions because I have 4 terms here, so it's not a monomial, binomial, or a trinomial. It actually would just be a polynomial. All right. let's do number 2. Simplify and write in standard form. Okay, here's A. 3x squared minus 2x plus 4x squared minus 3. Okay, now if you look here, to begin with, I have 4 terms. My first part of the directions are simplify. So I want to combine any like terms that I have, if I need to. Okay, so I'm looking here and I have 3x squared and 4x squared. Now I'm pretty sure we've talked about this. If I am adding, I don't change the exponents, but I do add the number that I have together. So I have 3 in this one and I have 4 in that one, so 3 plus 4 would be 7. So I'm going to say 7x squared minus 2x minus 3. Don't forget, you can't drop the minuses there. Okay? And now that is in standard form, from the largest exponent down to the smallest. Okay? How about B? X squared plus 2 plus 4 times x squared minus 2x. Okay? Now we have to do some more simplifying. I have a 4 on the outside of parentheses here, so I'm going to have to distribute those. So I've got x squared plus 2, and then 4 times x squared is 4x squared, and 4 times 2x is negative 8x. Okay? Now I want to see if there's any like terms I can combine. I've got an x squared and a 4x squared, so those can be added together. So I end up with 5x squared, and x squared is my term with the largest exponent, so that's first, and then minus 8x plus 2. So there's my answer. Okay, we'll do some OIOs in a minute. The first thing we're going to do is a word problem, and we're going to watch a video. So this video is about bungee jumping. Now I usually don't put it on full screen because sometimes it gets glitchy, so we'll just see what happens. Alright, I want you to know some details. I want you to see where they're jumping from, and then we're going to skip ahead. It's a long video. We're going to skip ahead to the jump. That's a big bridge. A long, long way. Look at where they're jumping. Okay, now we're going to move ahead to 1 minute and see what happens. Here she goes.
Oh Gott, Mama stirbt. Oh.
Whoa! No, thank you! Woo! That is a big jump. Really high up. Actually, I think that's the tallest one. Okay. Let's go back to math now. Okay. So, let me talk to you about the problem that we have, number 3. I'm going to read it out loud, and it has to do with things that are falling. Now, we're not jumping off a bridge. I thought that was much more exciting, but it is mathematical. So I'll read it out loud for you. You drop a pine cone from a bridge that is 150 feet high. So we have a bridge that's 150 feet high. Okay? The height in feet of the pine cone after falling t seconds can be found using the polynomial. Okay, so this is a formula. Of h equals negative 16t squared plus 150. Okay? So this shows the height. Can I spell? A pine cone falls in t seconds. So this formula is a physics formula that mathematicians and physicists have figured out, that you can calculate the height and using the time, you can figure out how far they would have fallen. That gravity always is consistent, it's the same, okay? So, in our problem we have a pine cone and we're trying to find the pine cone's height after 2 seconds. Okay, now, the reason why I showed you that other video is because it's much more exciting to watch somebody jump off a bridge, but if you threw a pine cone off of a bridge, it would use the same formula as a person, okay? It doesn't matter how big something is, how much it weighs. There's only 2 factors involved, the height and the time. So it was just a visual way of looking at the problem. So now let's look at the problem. Here's our formula, and we know that the bridge we put here is 150 feet high. So the pine cone is starting as 150 feet, and it's going to fall off the bridge. And after 2 seconds, so that's like 1, 2, we can know how far the pine cone has fallen, or what height it will be at in the air, okay? So I'm going to rewrite my formula down here. So just to summarize, you have a bridge like we did, right? And we have a little pine cone, and he goes falling off, and after 2 seconds, what's the height he has from the ground? Our little pine cone here, they came off a pine cone tree. Okay, so that's what's happening. So I'm going to put T2 in, and then I'm going to figure it out. So we'll use PEMDAS, and I will square the 2. And then I have negative 64 plus 150. When I have a negative and a positive, I subtract, and I use the sign of the larger number, so I'm just going to subtract 64, and I get 86 feet. So the pine cone will still be 86 feet off the ground after it starts falling at 150 after 2 seconds. Okay, so that's the answer to our problem. And just so you know, in Algebra 1 we use problems like this quite a bit, using this formula in one form or another. Okay, I want you to try 2 OIOs. Alright. I want you to do these. Hang on 1 second. Number 1, negative x squared plus 3x minus 2 times four x minus 5. Okay? And then the second thing I want you to do, so I want you to simplify this and put in standard form. All right, and number 2, I want you to find the height of the pine cone after it falls 1 second and 3 seconds. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and do those two OIOs, and we'll come back in just a moment. Okay, so let's go over these. I'm going to change colors. Draw, how about orange? All right, so I'm going to distribute here. So I've got negative x squared plus 3x minus 8x plus 10. Now, is there anything I can add together? Yes, I can add these two. So I end up with negative x squared minus 5x plus 10. So I have positive 3 and negative 8, and that becomes negative 5. And that is now in standard form. Okay, down here, if I put 1 second in, I've got the height equals negative 16 times 1 squared plus 150. So that's negative 16 plus 150, and I get 134 feet. Okay? Now let's do the other one. I'm going to put 3 seconds in this time. Negative 16. Now 3 squared is 9. And 16 times, a negative 16 times 9 is negative 144. I hope you got that. And then I get 6 feet. So let's talk about what's happening. We have our bridge, right? And we have our pine cone, and it's falling. So after 1 second, it's at 134 feet. That's at 1 second. After 2 seconds, it was at 86 feet. So let's write 86 here. Sorry. And after 3 seconds, it's almost down to the bottom. Down here, it's at 6 feet. So you can see that with more time going by, it's about to hit the ground. So just a little bit more than 3 seconds and the pine cone will have gone 150 feet down. Now, just so you know, 150 feet is at least 10 stories. So it's high. 10-story building, 12-story building. Depends on how big each floor is. But it's a long distance. 5 times the height of my house. So that's a lot. Okay, that's it for this lesson. So I will be sending the homework home, and I hope you have a great Wednesday. Bye now.